Okay, so this game that we're gonna look at, I played against a computer. I had the white pieces, and I was just trying out a new opening. So the game started like this, and I played c3, which is the Ponziani opening. The main moves for black here are pawn to d5 or knight f6. But the computer played this gap line with f5, and after d4 takes, knight f6. I wasn't sure what white is supposed to do in this position, so I played this move queen c2, which is not very good. You can see that black already has a small advantage. Better was something like queen b3, and after d5, bishop b5, a6, knight takes, queen d6. This is all computer analysis. Knight e7, check, takes, knight takes, queen c6, and after bishop f4, well, you can see the arrows. There's pressure on the c pawn, but black can play bishop d6, stopping that, and black has pressure along the a file, so the position is slightly better for white, but not really anything to write home about. Instead, I played queen c2, and the computer played this terrible move, knight a5, and you can see that white has a decent advantage with a +1 evaluation from the engine. So I play knight d2, attacking the pawn, and the computer played this move, attacking my knight. Here I played this move, just retreating, but I should have played b4, which I didn't even consider, but apparently this is the best move. And after takes, you don't take the knight on a5, you take the pawn. The point is that both knights are hanging, and you're gonna win your piece back. And now it gets really crazy after e3. I mean, everything is hanging. You take the knight, and now you have this intermezzo, taken with check, bishop takes. If you try to save the knight with c6, you're much worse. After queen check, you have to block with either the knight or the bishop. If you go king f7, you're getting mated after bishop c4. And well, after the retreat, the computer captured. I recaptured with the bishop. Maybe capturing with a knight is also interesting. I don't know if it's really better. After d5, knight e5, there is bishop d6, and he can exchange, and I would have the pair of bishops, but the two pawns in the center are just pretty strong, so there's really no advantage for white to speak of. So I took with the bishop, and after d5, I just retreat. Bishop e7 is pretty passive. So now white is once again slightly better. I played c4. Castling would have been a safer option, but he can still get pretty wild after something like bishop f5, f3, queen d7, takes, and well, this position is very interesting. I mean, there is the option to castle queenside as well as kingside. There is pressure along the file. This rook can come to this file and put even more pressure. So this is certainly an interesting position to analyze. But I played c4 and the computer just reinforces the pawn with c6. Now I castled. My idea is to bring the rook to the e file and play something like f3 and just put pressure on the bishop. Here the computer played this move, which is not very good, queen to d6. I thought about playing c5, attacking the queen, but then this bishop would just be a bad piece. So I decided instead to take. Although here, actually, instead of taking, black has the option of playing knight g4, which is very interesting. Maybe it's better for white, but it's just, from a practical point of view, super interesting, and it has very good practical chances, because as a human, playing something like g3, which is pretty much forced, it's just not something you want to do. The light squares are weak, and after queen h6, you kind of have to play h4, which just weakens everything. And I mean, there's ideas of sacrificing. I'll just show the line, I guess. And here it looks like you're getting mated, but apparently queen check and white is fine. In fact, white is just completely winning. But even stronger than that is this move, e3. The point is, you cannot take this pawn. If you take it, after queen takes with check, king h1 is the only move. Everything else is just getting mated. And after queen e2, which is the only really good move for black, I mean, look at the evaluation, it's practically -7. I mean, this is crushing for black. White can resign in this position. So after taking back, I played rook e1 with the idea of f3, although f3 immediately was actually better. And again, another computer line. Bishop e6, takes, knight takes, queen check, knight f2, because the knight was hanging. And this position, I know the evaluation says white is better, but I just don't like it because the rook is attacked. I still need to develop this bishop and this rook. Black is just one move away from castling. He might even trade bishops first and then castle. And there's really nothing here. I mean, this knight is just awkward on f2. So after rook e1, another passive move, bishop d7, f3, rook c8. Here I considered retreating to b1, but it just didn't feel right, so I had to go back to d1. And here I just didn't like my position. I just realized that I somehow misplayed it, and I was worse. Although the computer thinks that it's not a huge advantage for black, at least not yet. So after bishop f5, well, another continuation could have been queen to b6, which is really interesting. Here you can play king h1. The point is that you cannot take the pawn. If you do, there's knight takes, and after queen takes, you have this intermezzo, knight f6 check. You can't take with the bishop, obviously. And after taking with a pawn, rook takes. Even though materially equal, you have these isolated weak pawns, and that gives white a little something to play for. So instead, the computer went bishop f5, and I took. And this is a mistake because taking with a pawn allows the bishop to become really strong on this diagonal, and the king is kind of stuck in the center. Here I played knight c4, and the computer should have taken the knight. I mean, that's how bad black's position is. I mean, it's the first move that comes up. But the computer played queen to a6. But like I said, taking would have been better. And after knight g4, g3, and everything is good for white. Yes, the squares are a little weak, but it's not really a weakness if your opponent can't take advantage of it. And here I don't see how black is going to take advantage of those squares. After queen a6, I thought about playing knight here immediately, and well, in hindsight, I should have done that. But I thought, well, maybe I should develop the bishop first and then put the knight there. The problem is that black is going to sacrifice an exchange. So after bishop f4, which is just a blunder, taking is just not only forced, but it's a good move, a really good move. You get 2 pieces for the rook, and here, I mean, I played rook c1, trying to get some counterplay, but the computer just got greedy, took pawns, and then defended pretty well. So maybe against a human being, I could have gotten some sort of attack or perpetual check, something, but here I'm just gonna go quickly through the game because there's really nothing. I mean, look at the evaluation, it's almost -3. So after takes, I played this, took another pawn, I checked, king f7, I activated the other rook, and here the computer played a really good move, which I did not see. And after I took the pawn, queen e2, queen c4, and here I knew I couldn't really trade queens, but I thought this was the best move. I really didn't think that moving the queen again would really give me anything. So I thought, well, if we trade queens now, then at least I'll have the rook on the 7th rank, and maybe I can put pressure on this bishop right here. Now the computer got a little fancy with this move, attacking the bishop and the rook, so I pretty much have to take the queen, or so I thought. There is another line, but it's really hard to see. And after taking rook a7, it looks like I'm losing a piece, but I'm not. The computer doesn't really like the moves that I played, but the suggestions that it has aren't really giving white any hope. And now I'm getting the piece back. And here, I mean, this is just really bad. And after this move, I just resigned because I'm gonna lose this pawn, and this rook is tied to this pawn, this rook is tied to this pawn. The king can't really move because then the knight is going to eventually either go to here and attack the rook. So yeah, I mean, look at the evaluation, it's -10. So that's what happens when you play against computers. They can play a couple of really bad moves, and then you make one little mistake and they just punish you, especially when you're playing an opening you're not really familiar with. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.